how to speak Dragonese. I told you that Hiccup was very brainy, didn't I? He was very, very clever. And although he's not quite what he's expected to be, he's the one person in his tribe who can speak Dragonese, the language. He's a dragon whisperer, okay? He can speak Dragonese. Would you like me to teach you a little Dragonese? Yes, yes, why not? Okay, learning to speak Dragonese. I'm sorry, could the grown-ups please close their ears? This is not suitable for grown-ups. They're much more squeamish than children. Close your ears, grown-ups. Here are some common dragon phrases to get you started. There you are, Krapa in a duhusus pishu, which means no pooing inside the house, please. Me mama, no like it, yum yum on de bum, which means my mother does not like to be bitten on the bottom. And I do not blame her, nor do I. Pishu kindly gobber ut me friendly, which means, please would you be so kind as to spit out my friend. Okay. Shall I read one more bit? Yeah. Shall I read dinner time or shall I read toilet training? Toilet training. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you quite sure? Okay, I'll read. You see, children, they're just, they're different from grown-ups, aren't they? Yes, I shall read you toilet training. You, toothless, ta coglet me wanty ta cack into Greenclaw crap spot. Which means, toothless, you know I want you to poo in the dragon toilets. Toothless, oh, yesy, me coglet. Which means, oh, yes, yes, I know. You, pointing at large poo in the middle of Stoic's bed. Erg, questa, sa, which means, so what then is this? Pause. Toothless, hopefully. Chocolate snick snack, which means, a chocolate biscuit. You, snotter chocolate snick snack, is a cat de toothless, na in de green claw, that's what, they oopla-bang splosh in de middling de sleepy slab de papa. Which means this isn't a chocolate biscuit. It's a poo. It's one of your poos, toothless. And it's not in the dragon toilets, it's right bang splat in the middle of my father's bed. Okay, and through the books, you can learn to speak this language. I got all these pages through the books of the different dragon species and how to speak the language. And I'm always wanting to bring out a whole Dragonese dictionary so you could speak in the secret language of Dragonese to your friends. That's my plan. Eventually, I will do that. So I told you that when you start writing books, it's good to base it on something real, okay? So, and I told you about telling a lie, and so it's good to do lots of looking and listening to the way that people talk and put in lots of detail, okay? So I do lots of research for these books, even though they're fantasy books, and it gives me ideas for stories. For instance, okay, this book, okay, How to Cheat a Dragon's Curse. I found out that Vikings had skis. Of course they do. They had to go across the snow and everything. So I turned this into a Viking ski chase. They probably didn't downhill ski, but this is a fantasy. So I can take, something that's real, they really had skis, and have a huge Viking ski chase where Hiccup has to ski off the end of the mountain, like at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, yeah? So real facts give you ideas for stories. And, this one, How to Ride a Dragon Storm. It started off because I found out this really interesting thing about Vikings. They had these swimming competitions in full body armour. Vikings, how tough, you see. And the winner was the person who was the last person back. Because, how it was a game of chicken. Who could swim out the furthest? and, you know, be the bravest to come back. And this gave me this whole idea for a story in which Hiccup has to be last man back, and he accidentally gets picked up by a axe-wielding lunatic called Norbert the Nutjob on a slave ship and taken all the way to America, which didn't really exist at that time. And in the course of which he gets this slave mark. And anyway, it's a very long story. You'll have to read the book to find out what happens. As you can see, it's exciting. These books are exciting. I started off with one map, didn't I? And then I had to make the map even bigger. That was the map I drew at the first, Isle of Burke, and then I draw a bigger map. And each of these books is based on a different island, because Hiccup's world is getting bigger. Each of these books takes place on a different island, and it's all going to end eventually on the island of tomorrow. And what we're finding through the course of this series, I told you we're answering a question, what happened to the dragons? And what we're finding is that Hiccup's problem isn't quite what he thought it was. It's not so much living up to his father as whether his father can live up to him, because the world is in danger. The dragons are a little annoyed at everybody hunting them and all this kind of thing, and they're planning a dragon rebellion. This has happened over the course of a big dragon rebellion. And Hiccup meets this dragon called the Dragon Furious, who says, in this world, this is in How to Break a Dragon's Heart, in this world, my dragon brothers are everywhere in chains. Humans are enslaving us like dogs. They are riding us like horses. They are removing our fire and clipping our wings and breaking our hearts. Okay, so he wants to create a dragon rebellion that's going to extinguish all the humans. And I'm sort of torn here, because I sort of see his point. You know, you can sort of see his point, can't you? This huge dragon. I don't know who, I'll have to be on side of humans, you know, because I am a human. So this is how it starts in How to Steal a Dragon's Sword. Hiccup, there we are, there he is, heavily armed. I told you about the skis, I told you I'd tell you about the skis, how they come in handy. Heavily armed Hiccup is here at the beginning of How to Steal a Dragon's Sword. He's just about in the middle of that cliff there, hanging, okay? And he's hanging, I told you I did research into real life to give me ideas. Okay, and I'll show you the picture that inspired this idea. What are these people doing? They are crazy, these people. These are mountaineers, right? These people do this in real life. They go and they look for a mountain so vertical, it takes you more than a day to climb it. I mean, why, is what I say. But I like being on the ground, you know. And that's the ground there. And because it's so high, this cliff, that when they get halfway up, they have to hammer in their tents, okay, and stick the night on the cliff. There they are, hanging there. Those are the tents. There's all their equipment. And then they carry on, have breakfast, presumably, the next morning, halfway up the mountain. And then they carry on the next day. Crazy people. This gave me an idea for what would happen at the beginning of How to Steal a Dragon's Sword. Yeah, where Hiccup is hanging halfway up that mountain, trying to get to the Flashburn School of Sword Fighting on the top. Long story. There's a big sword fighting competition there. He's hanging there, and as he's hanging, he realises in the middle of the night, he's already in a difficult situation, isn't he? Hanging halfway up the mountain, he realises he can see, oh, can you see that? The dragons coming up the misty gorge, okay? And this is the beginning of How to Steal a Dragon's Sword. One long ago, winter's midnight, Hiccup, who has had it the third, awoke with a frightened start. Despite being the hoop and heir to the tribe of the Hairy Hooligans, Hiccup was a gangly, skinny, ordinary-looking boy with the kind of face that he was easy to overlook in a crowd. To tell the truth, he had not been sleeping very well. You can see why, can't you? I've explained why. And as he's there, he's listening, and he realises that danger woke him up. And he realises that the dragons, he can speak Dragonese, the dragons are whispering something as they come flying towards him. Make red your claws, they're whispering, with human blood, obliterate the human filth, torch the humans like a wood, the rebellion is coming. So that's the start of how to steal a dragon's sword. A while ago, DreamWorks came and said that they wanted to make a movie out of the books, and I was very, very excited because they can build such great dragons. I'd had some telly companies who said, we're going to make dragons, but we're going to make them with dogs with prosthetic attachments. Do you think a dog with plastic surgery would make a good dragon? No, no, not a good dragon. That's what I thought. So that's why I said no, thank goodness, to those people, thank goodness. And then when DreamWorks came along, I was so pleased because they're fantastic at making that kind of thing. They can make, you know how I said I like things to feel real. They can make them feel so real. Really good dragons, and they're really good at telling stories so that you mind about the characters as well. That was very clear. They were going to do that. They were going to make this amazing dragons, but they were also going to make a story about characters that you minded about, and Hiccup's relationship with his father, and all those kind of things. I thought that that was very important that they did that. And they drew all these incredible landscapes of where Hiccup might live. This is just one of them. And do you see the tiny little Vikings there? In this huge landscape. They didn't actually use this picture. They try out, it takes them 9 years to make a movie. So they try out lots of different landscapes before they decide which ones they're going to do. And then lots of different versions of Hiccup. Here's Hiccup, very young, 9 years ago. He's not quite right, is he there? And then he's a bit older, and now he's looking a bit wimpy looking, a bit third from the right. And the second from the right, he's looking a bit too all-American hero, I've got everything sussed. And so you might not really care so much about him. And in the last one, he's looking very, just right in the last one. So that was the one they decided to go with. So yes, that's sort of the end of my talk. I was just going to give you an idea of how I thought of the ideas and what happens when, a little tiny taste of what happens when your book gets made into a movie.